Network.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold, Clarke, Alan Rough, Charlie Adam and Tam McManus here with me in the studio. Like, share and, of course, follow us on Facebook. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. All roads lead to, of course, the match at Hampden. It's Scotland against Israel. We wish we were all there. We wish the Tartan Army were backing us, but it's just not to be. And there's further bad news, if we need any more in this country at the moment, because Stuart Armstrong, the Southampton player, is tested positive for coronavirus. He's now self-isolating. There's a masseur and a physio, and over and above that, Roughie, suddenly Ryan Christie and Kieran Tierney, who were in close contact, are at risk. They've been tested and they'll have to self-isolate for 14 days, which means not only do they miss the Scotland-Israel, but I think Tierney will miss a crucial game against Man City, and Ryan Christie is out of the Old Firm game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's a blow. Two and a half major players. I'm sure Armstrong would have took part sometime in the game, but it's a blow, you know. But I think we've got enough players there that can fill in, and I think that whoever does come in, whatever formation he picks, I'm sure, you know, that we're still going to be good enough, you know, to beat this team. We've lost 3 players. I think they've lost 6 or 7, possibly 8 players. So I think we're still ahead of them, and I think we should be good enough to beat them.
It's still a blow, and it suddenly gives us that conundrum, guys. Charlie, first of all, you know, do we go to 3-5-2? Do we go to 4-4-2? Or 4-5-1? I mean, because of the problems that we have working out what formation, who plays in these positions at the back. And the other bad news is Scott McKenna, Liam Palmer and Ollie Burke are now injured. So they're out of the equation as well, Charlie.
It's a massive blow. 6 players it's a huge blow to the lads, but also to this game. It's you need, I'd say, probably out of them, 3 of them probably would have started the game. 4 maybe McKenna might have played as well. So a huge blow, and Steve Clarke will have to reshuffle. But I think we'll go 4-3-3 now. I think it'll make his job easier to go with 4 at the back. And McTominay will play alongside Cooper.
Yeah, and in that right-back role, suddenly, Tam, it looks as if there aren't many options. I mean, Stephen O'Donnell is probably the best option for him.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. I think we'll definitely go 4 at the back. I think that makes his decision easy. You know, Robert's not playing his favourite left-back position. I think Stephen O'Donnell will play right-back. Don't know about the midfield and the centre-backs, but no, it's a huge blow for us because, you know, they would have played. Tierney would have played. You know, Armstrong and Christie would probably have played as well. So no, it's, as you said, I think every country, every team is in the same position at the minute. It's just, can you keep as many players as possible away from COVID, because there's going to be players missing from every single international team probably over the course of this week.
Yeah, and picking up on your point, Roughie, I know you're a big fan of McBurney and he should be given his chance. Does he go up front? I'm looking at the midfield. Will it be Fraser, McGinn, Jack, McGregor, and possibly McLean to pick from in there as the possible midfield unit?
Yeah, I think we've got enough in there. We've got enough depth, you know, and most of these players you're talking about are at the top of their game just now. I know the guys are saying 4-3-3. I would still like to try and find 2 strikers in this game. You know, whether it's 4-4-2 remains to be seen. But I would like to see McBurney, if he's fit, and Dykes up there. I think the 2 of them could cause a wee bit of problem. But again, it's getting the right formation to fit the 2 of them in.
Yeah, Robert McCluskey says, stop all international and European football till the pandemic is over. Play domestic games only. Then we'll have plenty of dates if games get called off. I think the problem now that we've got, Robert, is the dates for playing any kind of football are slowly but surely disappearing. I mean, we only have to look at what you encountered last night, Charlie. Suddenly a player tests for COVID for Forfar. The game's off and Dundee get a 3-0 win in the League Cup.
Yeah, I only seen it when I was looking on Twitter just before I was about to leave to go to the stadium, and we broke the news. PLZ, it was, and then that's when I texted you saying, "Listen, is our game off?" We hadn't heard anything from the club, and I was listening. It's frustrating, but in the end, we've got a few big games coming up. Brora on Saturday, but also the start of our league season starts next week on next Friday away at Tynecastle against Hearts. So, if that lad had played and never said anything, and all of a sudden, we found out he had a positive test today, we probably would have had to isolate for 14 days. So then that would have put the game in doubt. The game would have been off against Hearts. So, listen, there's a little bit of a positive to it that we managed to train and then have a couple of days off, and then we'll be ready to go for the weekend.
There are new stricter guidelines in place from Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister, but there's no doubt that this could be a domino effect. I just kept on talking there eventually to get that news out, and now we'll go to Roughie. The concept of
no, it's okay. No, I know you're an expert in this. I'm really puzzled with the whole COVID thing. First thing is, I don't understand why one player gets tested and the game's called off. Could anybody explain that to me? How
they were all tested, probably.
No, what happened was one of the players' mums tested positive for COVID, so he had to have a test, and it come back that he was positive as well. So he's been training with these lads in the week, or car sharing with some lads in the week, and they just won. So obviously they tested positive for the game, and he had to cancel the game. But I thought if it was only one player, then that was all right. As long as they could field a certain amount of players on the team, they would be okay. But for some reason, the game was called off, and we had to listen. We were awarded a 3-0 win. We'll take that, and we'll look forward to the next game on Saturday.
Yeah, but the point here, I think you're probably asking, Roughie, is quite simply what happens is they would call the government chief medical officer on this as well and say, look, this person's tested positive. Here are the people he's been in close proximity to over this period of time. And then slowly but surely you start to join the dots. Now, at that point, can you guarantee that some of the players, and remember you can test negative at one point and then be a positive, can you guarantee the safety of the other sets of players when you go into contact with them in a game situation? And I think these are all the things that will have been discussed before they got to around about 6 o'clock last night and went definitively, this is not happening, this game is off. And simply here in the situation with Scotland, Roughie, if he's been in close proximity in the training to two players, then clearly Tierney and Christie, you can understand why, they would all be friends from their Celtic days. They would all have been in close to each other, chatting. Maybe in that bubble they were rooming with them. I don't know, but clearly the training might be in such a way, Tam, that they're distanced at some points and training in games at the other points. I mean, I can't explain away why one player tests positive and the whole squad's not out.
Yeah, I think obviously small numbers will be doing certain drills, but you get into games, and Charlie will know that himself, you're going into bounce games and five-a-sides and stuff like that, and small-sided games in training, then you're going to be close to everyone. You're going to be getting close to people and putting tackles in and marking people at set pieces and all that. So I don't understand it really how one player can get it, but I think just in the case of last night, I think Dundee are fortunate that the test came to light early doors, because as Charlie said, it could have cost him a couple of games, and they're still okay to go ahead for their game at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of people on here saying they should pull the plug on this international. I'm not so sure, Roughie. I think it's a difficult situation. You have to suddenly take the hit and lose certain players, but the games need to go ahead, or a whole structure of a tournament collapses.
Yeah, I do think they should go ahead as well. I think we'd already discussed the doctor with the Scotland team came on and gave a full disclosure of how they behave and how the players are all in a bubble and how they all eat in certain numbers and how they do this and how they do that. So, no, I think they've got it well on top of it. We just knew this was going to happen. I just hope it's not the tip of the iceberg, because going back to the Forfar one, maybe it's because Forfar haven't been testing. Maybe because they don't have anything on record. Maybe they're one of the teams who have done nothing at all. So obviously then you're going to panic if one gets it when nobody else has been tested.
Yeah, and the other thing about this, Tam, and again, I'm really shooting in the dark here. I'm not going to, in any way profess that I am a genius on how they actually work out in a bubble who actually comes into close contact, who is then eliminated from it, who is then tested. I would imagine the blatant facts on this are he's tested immediately. He's positive. Who's he been in close proximity to? You have to self-isolate, so they take them out of the equation, and then they test everyone else in the bubble, and anyone else who tests positive is taken out. It's almost like a one-by-one effect. I mean, the difference is, as Roughie points out there, Forfar wouldn't have been testing, a regular basis, if at all, because of this part-time work situation. As Charlie pointed out, somebody's mum got it, came back in, suddenly the player has it. But I'm looking here at the masseur and the physio as well, and I'm thinking they would have been around a few people. So it can only be that when they're around a few people, they're then tested and everybody else is tested. And if they're negative, they keep going in this bubble.
Sorry to jump in, but I don't know. We don't know if this camp, that physio and doctor have been, if they've been designated to Tierney, Armstrong, and who's the other one?
Christie.
They might have 5 players that they have to deal with that whole week for treatment, physio, massage. I'm just presuming that's how it's worked. Or maybe, for instance, if it's Armstrong or Christie, it might be that they might have a physio from Celtic or a masseur from Celtic that he's been working with, and they're thinking, hold on a minute, we need to try and isolate them away from everybody else. So until we actually know what's happened, it's hard to presume what's going on, but I can only imagine that the physio and the masseurs probably been designated 5 players for the week, and they've only to work with maybe 5 players.
Peter, it's difficult to track it all. It's difficult to track it. I mean, even at the schools just now, I'm in coaching. Some of the boys are off because their wee sister has been in contact with somebody who's got COVID in their class, so they've got to self-isolate for a week or 14 days. It's so difficult to keep up with it all, to be honest, and it's all over the place. Yeah,
what we do know, apart from the injuries, is that these 3 players are now out of the equation. And of course, we're going to hear from Steve Clarke shortly and Andy Robertson, the Scotland captain. They've been speaking to the press this afternoon. We'll bring you their reaction to this before the show ends today. But there's no doubt about it, Steve Clarke will be looking at the injuries and this situation with COVID as a blow. I'm just looking at it, Tam. I know that the Israeli side has suffered their own blows with people out with COVID and quite a few key players. Yeah, well, there's quite a few key players out of the equation from yesterday that we're talking about. So suddenly we've got it's not a substandard game, but it's certainly a game that's not with, the countries at full strength in this one. Should we, I don't know, do we get into it with confidence, even with the players we still have available?
Yeah, I think we should, Peter. I think we've got a great squad of players. There's no doubt about it. Obviously we're missing a couple of key players, which is bad for us, but we've got plenty of quality come in, particularly in the middle of the park. And as Roughie said, you can play 2 up front, you can play McBurney and Dykes. I think there'd be a handful for any defence. I know McBurney takes a lot of stick, but he's playing the Premiership for Sheffield United. He must have something about him. And listen, I think we should go into the game with confidence. I think this is a game that we can win. I think it'll be difficult, but go into the game and try and win the game. So I would agree with Roughie. I would play, Charlie's saying 4-3-3. I think I'd go 4-4-2 and play with your 2 strikers and just have a right go at them. It's a one-off game. Just go and try and win the game and then think about the next game.
And who's your middle 4 then, Tam? I know it's a tough one. I sent you a list of players that I thought would still be in the front running for it.
Yeah, midfield 4. I think they've got to play John McGinn. Yeah, you've got Fraser. You need a winger. I would play Fraser, I'd play McGinn, McGregor. Who would you play on the left-hand side then? Because I was thinking about maybe...
Well, it's McLean or Jack. You're looking for balance. Robertson's going to bomb up and down there. You're suddenly looking, you're thinking, they're the ones options, that you have.
Many options wide.
Because McTominay move back in.
I'd like to see. I'd probably go for Ryan Jack at right back, and have McGinn, McGregor, and maybe McLean holding. Because I'm not so sure about Steven Naismith at right back. So I would rather have Ryan Jack playing at right back, and have Fraser playing one side with Lyndon Dykes and somebody else up on the right hand side.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. I mean, you caught me on the hop there, Charlie. It's one of those ones. There's so many different possibilities in this. Everybody will have their say on it. I'm not so sure he would go with Ryan Jack, but hey, who am I to dismiss it out of hand? Roughie, one thing's for certain. I always like to value the opinion of Darren Fields, who knows the Israeli side well. He watches them on a regular basis, and he said, regardless of the 6 players out, they've still got quality. They'll still be difficult to beat. They could still cause an upset.
Of course they could. But again, it's up to us. It's up to us to be in the front foot. We've already played them a couple of times. I'm sure the manager will have known well enough the players that are going to come in. But they're going to be more under strength than us. I think they'll be affected with it more than us. Because I think we've got a few players that can come in. I don't know the ability that the guys they've got of coming in, and I keep saying this all the time. We know they're a good side. They're not a great side. I wish we'd stop talking teams up when they come to play us. I would like to talk us up and say, look, we should be well good enough to go and beat this team at least 2-0, and I hope that is the case on the night.
Yeah, forgive me for you getting the feeling I'm talking Israel up, Roughie. I'm actually talking Scotland to the level that we've become accustomed to in the last 20 years. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's glorious failure. I would love to be in a situation. You'll never get anybody more patriotic than me about Scotland, but I just love to look at the squad and think to myself, okay, full strength, here it goes. Dykes, we got excited about him, Tam, because he gave us that different option. And now we were hoping, is he going to play with somebody off him that's going to bring out the best in him? And it's actually, this game has come a couple of weeks too early, or we could have been saying, oh, it's Dykes and Griffiths up front.
Yeah, I was thinking that today as well, Peter. I think if Griffiths had a couple more games under his belt, you would play him. Listen, is there any chance you could maybe get him into the squad? I know it's a bit late now, but just to sit on the bench, Griffiths, even just for 10 minutes to come on. He's one of those guys, I think, even if he's 50-60% fit for Scotland, you'd put him in the squad just to bring him on for 10-15 minutes because he's likely to pop up with a goal. But unfortunately, it just came too quick for him. But Lee, without doubt, for me, is still our best striker when he's fit. And here's hoping that he can get himself back in shape and get back in the Scotland setup.
Yeah, I like Niall Kane, who regularly watches the show, has mentioned, you could play Callum Patterson at right back. We absolutely could play Callum Patterson at right back.
Charlie likes Callum Patterson.
I know, but he played but he played the.
He cannot play right back for a country. No chance.
I know you're
get him up front, out the way.
Yeah, I know you're putting your head in your hands, but believe me, I have actually been in Steve Clarke's company, and I understand the pain, Roughie, that he feels because he knows he doesn't have a plethora of centre halves. He knows he doesn't have great options at right back. He knows, that suddenly from having a great choice in midfield, he's looking and thinking, can I coax this boy from Australia to play for Scotland, which he's successfully done? Now he needs to work out a partnership. These are the problems that we have talked about with countless managers, Roughie, who've been in charge of Scotland.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, if we're saying, it's just a bit late for Lee Griffiths. If this game had been played when it was supposed to be played, we'd have been in dire straits. We had players injured all over the place. McGinn was out, Tierney was out. So this pandemic helped us a wee bit to get these players back. I still think we've got quality. I think the manager's good enough to look at the quality that he's got and put a decent team out on the park. And I keep saying it's a must-win for me. No excuses. We've got enough players, that should beat this team. This team's ranked 40 places below us. They've only won 2 games out of the last 10. So come on, let's be positive and let's go out and win it and then deal with the next game.
Yeah, I like Derek Duffy's line on YouTube. He says, Steve Clarke says he's got no idea who you are, Peter, which is such a good line. I quite like that. I like a battering early on. You get a few of them from time to time.
Would you put Fleck in there instead of? Would you put Fleck in instead of McLean?
Well, listen. For me, I think it's McGinn and McGregor as a Stonewall certainty. I think Fraser's going to be in there, and then it's one other. I would put John Fleck in, no problem, because one, I like him as a player, and two, he's never let his country down. He's absolutely put himself out there and wanted to be playing wherever he's told. So I would have no problem with that, Charlie. It's a good shout.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I'm just looking at the squad now, just trying to figure out it's that other position. You know, Fraser will play, Dykes and somebody up on that right hand side. I'm not too sure. Maybe Patterson might play because he is athletic and he can get up and down. He might play up as a right winger, but I don't want to see him at right back.
Yeah, well, it's one of those major dilemmas, but over and above that, don't forget, Tam, when you have your mic so close to your Scotland shirt and you keep rubbing it, we can all hear you rubbing it, especially on the podcast when they think some kind of grizzly bear is attacking them. So when people go out for a podcast, Tam, they're usually walking around places like Sackley Park and they start looking around thinking, what's this big mad thing coming towards me? And it's your stupid microphone. Anyway, apart from anything else, I mean, we're talking there. Who knows who he's going to pick for it? It's going to be a major dilemma for him. Can we win it? Give us your thoughts on it. McBurney would get his goals up top. Give the boy a chance, says Raymond Gavin. Raymond, you know, I think you're like Roughie. Roughie likes him, likes his energy. It's just the goals, Roughie, that I have a problem with.
Yeah, but I think he could be one of these players if he had somebody to feed off. You know, I think every striker will tell you it's a lonesome trail up there, you know, just making runs and not getting the supply that you want. But when you've got a partner up there, you know, like the boy Dykes, you can hold the ball up, you can feed off him, you can get headers that he nicks, you know, and I think he'd be a better player that way. Look, teams haven't played that amount of money for him if they didn't see something. I just think he's unfortunate he hasn't shown it with us. But I would still give him a chance, but I prefer somebody up front with him.
Roughie, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to be unbelievably honest with me. Now, you know, from time to time, there's a telepathy between you and I. So Charlie and Tam, obviously, they'll know right away as well if you're lying here. But when you come up with that line, "Lonesome Trail," were you thinking of a Laurel and Hardy song?
Yep.
I knew right away. I thought he's trying to come up with the line.
A lonesome trail. What is that?
You know, I know that's
a lone furrow.
For goodness sake, it's an epic.
No, you're not. Honestly, it's a great
song,
Tam. Tam, you need to look it up. I think it actually reached #1 in Britain in the 70s.
Yeah, it
Tam.
did.
I kid you not.
Here,
So anyway, I knew right away he was looking for a phrase, and I thought, he's stolen that from a Laurel and Hardy song. He's mental. Anyway, fingers crossed that Steve Clarke can guide us through this one, and the team that he does pick gets there. We'll hear from the Scotland manager shortly on this. One player who does want to be involved, you know him well, Tam, as well. He's been speaking yesterday. He signed for Dundee United, and of course, I think from our point of view, the more the merrier who's available. Mark McNulty just said he wants to be still involved.
Yep, I think that's a great signing for Dundee United. I've seen him a lot at Hibs and loan. Obviously, Charlie was at Reading with Charlie, so I think he's a great signing for United, and he'll score goals up there. He got a couple of games with Scotland. You know, I think he missed a couple of chances against San Marino. He missed a great chance for a header to get his Scotland goal, but I'm sure if he goes to Dundee United and scores goals for them, he can get himself back into the Scotland squad because he's a goal scorer. He done well for Hibs. Well, in the loan period he was there. So, no, I think it'll be good for United and a good foil for Shankland.
Yeah, let's hear from Mark McNulty.
So, for me, this season is all about just playing week in, week out. Hopefully, for Dundee United, scoring goals and helping them sort of achieve a little bit of success. And if that, like I said, if you get a sort of international recognition for that, then absolutely delighted.
Some players do make mistakes when they're asked to do any kind of visual audio interview from home. They just quickly rush and they get a jumper that doesn't work, Roughie. They just put it on hastily. Charlie did it last week with his shirt that was clearly from another era, and Mark McNulty's Mark McNulty's gone for a multicoloured one there that just hasn't worked, and there was no Mrs. Adam just on the left hand side to give him a quick change of wardrobe.
That's your hit it spot on. No experience there, to know the time scale you've got to switch. But you need somebody there in assistance, and obviously Charlie had that last week, but the bold Mark didn't have anybody to help him there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see at the moment, Charlie obviously heading back to Dundee, which is why he's wearing the hoodie, ready to just stand at the corner on Dundee Main Street and intimidate people.
So, going back to that, if you look at us now, we've actually got 5 or 6 good strikers. If you look at how Boy Nisbet started at Hibs, we got McBurney, you got Griffiths, you got Dykes, you got McNulty if he can score a few goals, Shanklin. So all of a sudden we're thinking, hold on, we're struggling up front, but we end up 5 or 6 good strikers now, and it's going to be a tough one for Steve Clarke to pick.
I like the point that you've made, Charlie, because quite simply for me, I know Tam is very, very positive about Kevin Nisbet, and rightly so. He started the season well. But for me, Charlie, if we go into Norway or Serbia, if we could get past Israel, if we go into the game with Dykes and Griffiths as a partnership, I will suddenly start to think, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, 2 good players. Even on Sunday there, when Griffiths come on, you could see the quality that he's got, his movement, just guides into areas where other strikers don't even think about it. The top ones will go, he just glided in there for that header. And listen, apart from scoring late, I thought they as somebody that I would love to see Rangers win the league, but it was good to see him coming back from where he's been, and he looks at it. I don't think he was too happy, but Neil Lennon gave him a cuddle after it, so I don't know if they maybe had a little bit of a lover's tiff, but if Neil Lennon can get him firing again, then it's great for Scotland, and I hope that the wee man can get scoring goals and get a partnership with McBurney or Dykes or one of the other 4 or 5 that we've got.
Yeah, I think he's more grateful for the fact that Lennon has stuck by him and said that the words that Lee Griffiths used, as long as I'm here, this is him talking about Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon says, as long as I'm here, you'll be here. So that was a real bit of encouragement for him. I think he was well happy with that line. Thanks to Jim Kelly, who's just sent us a message on Facebook and says, the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. So clearly, some people remember it, Roughie, and tonight Tam will have that on his Spotify, and as soon as he listens to it, he'll send us a text and say, you two have lost the plot. Listen, it's not only Scotland that's suffering from players being out. Suddenly this France under-21s have a player who's tested for COVID, and you couldn't make it up, Tam. It's Odsonne Edouard.
Yeah, disaster for Edouard. Listen, I think he's still eligible to play, obviously in the Old Firm game. But depends how bad his symptoms are. How bad he gets the virus. Some younger and fitter people don't seem to be really getting affected that much by it. It's more the older people and different age groups. So I think he'll be fine. I think as long as he's isolated from everyone else, and then he'll be fine. But it's a blow for him. He'd been wanting to get away with France under-21s, get a couple of games under his belt, maybe score a couple of goals and come back buzzing for the Rangers game. But even if he doesn't play against Rangers, Celtic have still got plenty of options to go into that game and win it.
Well, Ayeti, Roughie, has declared himself, not as bad a hamstring problem, so he looks as if he's going to be available. My only problem with Edouard is the fact that his isolation will bring him back into Scotland on the 16th. Does the manager throw him in? Does he keep him on the bench?
It's a difficult one. Obviously, you have to assess the individual. We've already talked up Lee Griffiths. And the big question is, if Eti is fit, is he still second choice? Is Griffiths third choice? Where's Kamala in this whole thing? Because I stated the other day there, at St Johnstone, when Neil Lennon had to make a decision of what striker to put on first, he put on Kamala ahead of Lee Griffiths. So he obviously thought that was a better option. You have to reassess now, is that a better option, and how far up the pecking order does Lee Griffiths go with 15 minutes of game? He'll have to assess that himself. But if you're a Rangers supporter in the Rangers camp, you're rubbing your hands about Edouard not being fit or not being available to play in this game, because he's a big time player, and I think that again puts Celtic on the back foot if he is not available.
And Peter,
I think when you're up,
his record against Rangers is sensational, Edouard. Yeah, as Roughie said, he's a big game player. His record against Rangers, he scored some outstanding goals against Rangers. So I agree with Roughie. Rangers will be delighted, and the fans, if he's not available on the bench.
Yeah, I think he's been woefully poor, Charlie. I think the manager's been first to admit that on countless occasions. In these post-match interviews, you only have to listen to what he's saying. You only have to sense from his body language and the certain things that I've said over the course of the last couple of weeks. He's not at it. But in this game, I think if he's got a chance and he looks at it and says to himself, the manager's got a big decision here, Charlie. Is it Edouard coming back on the 16th to play in an Old Firm game? And Roughie thinks Griffiths is third choice. I think Griffiths is now in a situation where if he has a good 2 weeks of training, the manager might look and say, you're in.
He might do, but if you're talking about at the moment what Edouard's done for Celtic since he's been there, then I would throw him straight in. I just think that I think you can look at Edouard's performances like Morelos. He's had a little bit of an interest. Somebody's turned his head a little bit. That window now closed. It's time to knuckle down. And if he comes back and he comes on fire from also now till January, then we all know that he's obviously had a few things in the background. But if he doesn't come back and it's still lingering, then there's an issue there. He either doesn't want to be there or what. But I still think if Edouard comes back from this COVID thing and he's okay, he will play because, like I said, Tam said, his record against Rangers is phenomenal. And, you want your best players playing. I think it's a blow that Christie's not going to play. So it will be interesting to see what Neil does. But I would expect him to go Edouard.
And I'm going to ask you one other little question, Charlie, which is probably something that you will either kick in the teeth or maybe throw flames on the fire. But it won't go away. We've had a foreign journalist, an Italian, who claims he's an expert on these things. And who are we to doubt that foreign journalists can be an expert on a deal that's taking place or potential for it? But Jack Wilshere to Rangers just won't go away at the moment. I think it's pie in the sky when you understand the boy's on $100,000 a week at West Ham, but he's a free agent. Could somebody finance it? Would he join Steven Gerrard because of their links and their friendship? Who knows?
There's always a possibility Wilshere could come to Rangers because it's a big club. Would it be a pay-as-you-play because he will be still getting paid from West Ham as part of the payoff that he received? And he might just think, do you know what? I might go up there and play to the end of the end of the season on a 1-year deal and show people that I'm a good player and I could play minutes. I could see it happening. Because Steven's obviously got that presence and that authority to be able to bring these type of players in, and players want to play from. So it wouldn't surprise me. But obviously signing the lad in from South Africa is a different issue because he might have thought about that before. But obviously now that they brought him in, it might change it a little bit. I knew that they were trying to get a 6 or an 8 in the door, and they managed to get that in with this lad from Amiens. But when a quality player like Wilshere comes available, I think you've just got to go and try and take the bull by the horns and get it done and get it over the line. And if they can do that, it'll be a great signing.
Yeah, well, Bongani Zungu has been on Rangers' radar for quite a bit of time, so they've managed to get him. The South African, whether he throws him in or not, only time will tell. Managers look at them in training and think, is he good enough for the big game? There's many a player come into an Old Firm game having just signed, so it's not something that's going to be setting a precedent. Jack Wilshere, I'm a big fan of him. I liked him as a player, Tam. I can remember him from the game at Celtic Park, Scotland against England, and I looked at him in the England shirt, and I looked at him and I thought, wow, that boy is built like, Stretch Armstrong. He just looked so muscly. His physique was absolutely top drawer, and I liked what he did as a player.
Yeah, Peter, I don't think his quality's ever been in question. I think he's a top player when he was fit, but he's not been fit for a couple of seasons now. You know, he's at West Ham. He's hardly kicked a ball for them. You know, the West Ham fans were slaughtering them on social media. You know, he's put a lot of money at the club without giving much back. You know, he's been injured a long time, so I agree. He's quality. He's a quality footballer, and if you can guarantee him he's going to be fit for 15, 20 games, then he's well worth a gamble. But I don't know. It's very risky, and as Charlie said, pay as you play. Possibly, yeah. If you play, there's maybe 10 grand a week if you're playing. If you're not playing, you're not getting anything. So maybe we would go for that. But nah, I think Rangers are well covered in the midfield area anyway. To be honest,
Somebody's just texted. I've just texted somebody, and Wilshere, no, they don't think so.
Right. Well, I am one of those people, Charlie, in that camp who doesn't see a Jack Wilshere joining Rangers, certainly not on the wages he's on. I do think he's, in a strange sort of way, and I'm not being derogatory towards the Scottish game, if you pull that type of signing off, you think, well done if he stays clear of injuries, Roughie. But from my point of view, I think Jack Wilshere can still play at the top level in the English Premier League. And I'm not talking about his wages, I'm talking about his ability. I don't know what's gone wrong for him at West Ham.
Yeah, I think that would be one of the things you'd have to assess. If we go in this day and age, if he's got a decent agent, he'll be in contact with a right few clubs down in England. They'll obviously know about the boy the way we're talking him up and the ability he's got. So I would think there'd be somebody down in England would prepare to take that chance before he would move up here. But again, that's the lad's decision. Would he want to stay down in England or come up here? I mean, Rangers are a massive club. There's everything to play for this year. They're in Europe. But again, to me, it's just the player that's got to make up the decision on this one.
Yeah,
get back to see Ryan Christie. Is he COVID? Is he tested positive for?
He's isolated. He has to isolate because he was in contact with him.
Yeah, what makes him different for Edouard? If Edouard can be available, how can he not be available?
Well, Edouard was COVID
days ago
and going into an isolation process a few days ago. This from here on in to the 17th of October, Roughie, makes Christie ineligible to finish his isolation period. So that's why he's out. It's from the time where you're tested and there's a positive, or you're in close proximity to somebody you have to isolate also. So I can only tell you what I'm hearing at the moment. I was going to read you something there, and I think he's talking about Jack Wilshere. Callum Dillery on Facebook says, deal close to getting done, 1 year deal, spotted in Glasgow. And I love that attitude to it, because there's one thing.
The Silverbun Tesco was putting petrol in.
There's one thing in Glasgow that happens. It's somebody saying he's spotted, and suddenly lots of journalists start to panic, and then they get the photographers out to see if it's true or not. You just never know, do you?
No, you don't. I mean, I seen some of the rumours today on Twitter. He was pictured filling his car up, a convertible at Silverburn. I'm thinking to myself, you're not putting the roof down in Glasgow in October. I don't think that's a real picture. I think that was a fake. But I think the Rangers fans will be, listen, they'd be delighted if he comes in. There's no doubt in his quality. But it's, as Charlie said, it's got to be a pay as you play. Can he? You know, the amount of wages he'll be commanding, there's no way Rangers could afford it.
Yeah, I'm with Charlie on this. I can't see it happening. But hey, I've been wrong before. The promise of the Scotland manager, Steve Clarke, is upon us. Here's what he had to say.
Obviously, you know the players that are involved and key players for us. So a difficult time for me as a manager, and now some difficult decisions to make, or some other decisions to make in terms of team selection, which really is my main focus now, because what's happened has happened. Hopefully everyone involved come through with no issues, and the health of everybody is more important than any game of football. But now, as a football manager, the national manager, I have to make sure that we get the team on the pitch, right frame of mind, and ready to go for a positive result.
I'll tell you one thing, Charlie. Who would be an international manager? Who would be a Scotland manager? Because, I mean, not that he's got any here, but you would be tearing your hair out day in, day out with this.
That voice is gone already as well. So he's done a lot of shouting this week. I think I think injuries and you could accept lads being out of the squad, but when this something like this COVID thing hits, you don't prepare for it really, do you? You expect everybody to be okay because we're in a bubble and they're inside a hotel together, and it's difficult for it to happen. And all of a sudden, 3 year players that are going to start the game end up with it. Then you've got to rejig it and think of different ideas. And you probably worked all week. It's probably maybe Sunday if some of them met up then, working on what your plan was, and then it's changed. On a Tuesday, Wednesday, day before the game, and it is frustrating. But Steve's an experienced coach; he knows what he's doing, and he'll be ready to go. And I just hope that lads can get the result, and we can look forward to Serbia or Norway in the next game.
Yeah, and if all goes according to plan, then suddenly we'll have to work out if we're going to play a 9-1 formation at the back for Scotland, just to try and keep the shackles on Haaland. Tom, I don't know about you, but when I watched him the other week there, and he hit a volley left with his instep of his boot into the back of the net, I thought to myself, there's the nightmare waiting Scotland in the future. Just when we get our hopes up, that could send us all crashing down if we get past Israel.
Yeah, he's fantastic. What a player he is. I think that was against Northern Ireland, that one. He absolutely pinged a side foot and nearly burst the net, put it in the corner. But he's a top player. And as you said, if we get Norway, if we're lucky enough to get by Israel, Norway will be very, very difficult to beat. I think there's a man Martin job on him, and try and snuff him out the game, because if you don't, he could destroy you single-handedly. He could score 2 or 3 goals and then you're done. But top player. I think he'll go on, Peter, and be one of the best number 9s in the world. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you can get pinged a side foot into your Hibs commentary tonight, that would be magnificent, Tam. I don't know if you're capable of that.
Depending if Big Nizzy's playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuart,
just wait for a few. Just wait in a couple of weeks for a bet, Freddie. We'll sneak that in when we're at Easter Road. Don't worry about that.
Oh yes. Oh, we're scouting job on Charlie that day.
Well, I just like to say to you, the day after, our thoughts are with Kevin Nisbet, who's out for the next 6 months, as Charlie cemented him as he makes his way to the forward area. Stuart Griffin says, I think you're wrong, Peter. Edouard has tested positive, so it's 10 days. Christie hasn't tested positive, but he's been in close contact with someone that has the virus and can incubate for days. This is the difference as far as I'm aware. So Christie could well be infected, but he won't know as yet. Stuart, I've mentioned 3 or 4 different possibilities on this. I could be wrong in all 3 or 4 of them, Stuart, to be perfectly honest with you. All we know is that Edouard was yesterday, so that's the 10 days. What we know is that Christie's out. I think whether he knows he's got it or not, you may well be right on the incubation of it. And I think all we are speculating on now is what's available to Steve Clarke and what's going to be available to managers, not only for Celtic against Rangers, but Charlie, here's the biggest fear for a lot of countries, and it's happening regularly as I watch the newsfeed coming in. Lots of countries are sending their players lots of clubs are sending their players to their country, and then they know that they're not going to have the player back for 14 days because it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, it's the big games at the moment, aren't they? So the players want to go and play for the national team. I think a lot of club managers would prefer if the players never went, but players want to go and represent their country. It's an international window, so the clubs can't stop it unless they have an injury. So it is tough, and it's a huge risk with the travel and things like that. But it's going to be a worry for obviously Scotland have lost a few players, but there'll definitely other nations. Shaqiri obviously losing Switzerland will lose a couple of weeks at Liverpool. So it's going to be a blow, and there'll be bigger players in the next couple of weeks losing games because of the COVID.
Yeah, I'm going to read this out because, as ever, we like a bit of banter. We like people who like a noise up on the programme, Roughie. Craig Govan has some breaking news on this. It can't be confirmed. This could be speculation, so don't jump, everybody. But Craig Govan on Facebook has just said, Roughie, maybe you could give us your thoughts on it. The SFA have announced that if the Celtic Rangers game can't be played, then Rangers will be awarded a 4-0 victory. It's usually a 3-0 victory, says Craig, but Rangers will be given an early penalty. so clearly, Craig's obviously a boy who's he's not having it, is he?
No, he certainly isn't, but we like that kind of thought. No, it's just an interesting one, but we know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, Roughie. I didn't want you to give us any in-depth analysis on it. I just wanted as a wee noise up. Anyway, Ian Maxwell says, and this is the absurdity of it, Charlie. Especially
SFA Ian Maxwell.
Sorry,
is that the SFA Ian Maxwell?
Yeah, Ian Maxwell has said last night. Obviously, they have regular chats with the government and Joe Fitzpatrick, the sports minister, just to plead the case, and rightly so. I think Ian Maxwell and Neil Doncaster are trying to fight for the cause of the business, for the survival of it, for at least an injection of cash, some kind of bailout to help us. But when he mentioned last night that fans will return much sooner than the 6 months that's being projected down south at Westminster, I think he's raising some false hope there for a lot of clubs, Charlie, because as we are witnessing now from the comments made earlier today by the First Minister of Scotland, this thing can get out of hand and suddenly we have to take evasive action or prohibitive action to members of the community and businesses. So this is a promise that I think maybe gives people false hope in my mind.
Yeah, listen, there was a petition going around with the EFL yesterday, and they need 100,000 signatures. But I just think I would love to see fans, but I'm one for allowing the fans in and social distancing. But the longer we go, I just think this season could be a write-off, and the longer it does go, the fans won't return this season. It's going to be a shame, but as long as the club's get an injection of cash from the government. And they can survive, and we'll look forward to next season with hopefully getting the supporters back in. But it is a huge blow. But I just think that we're going to jump the gun again, and we are going to put ourselves into trouble because it is a huge blow. But it's not going to happen this season, I don't think.
Yeah, Niall, who's a big Motherwell fan, Roughie says, can you get Roughie's thoughts on Motherwell's new signing, the goalkeeper Aaron Chapman, who's come in on a free transfer from Peterborough to challenge and push Trevor Carson? Need to be some
Roughie knows him well
to push. Yeah, need to be some keeper Roughie to push Trevor Carson.
Definitely honest, yeah. I've been keeping my eye on this boy for a long time at Peterborough. I was just wondering when he was going to break through, but. But no, most goalkeepers like competition. You up your game, when somebody appears. There's no doubt about that, and it doesn't have to be a goalkeeper. It could be an outfield player. But to answer your question, I haven't a clue who that boy is.
We got there, Niall. As you're aware, Niall, I think the first thing that Stephen Robinson is trying to do is indeed get cover. He's had a few problems, but Trevor Carson for me is top drawer. Fingers crossed he doesn't get anything that happens to him, because he's a good goalkeeper for them, and he's waited quite a bit of time to get his chance to be the regular number one. So Niall, just in case you missed it, thanks Niall. We're always good to see some late signings coming in across the place. Tam, I presume you're doing Hibs, Brora Rangers tonight.
Yes, I'll be heading through shortly after this, going through to the game and looking forward to the game. Hibs, I think, will play a weakened team. I think they'll give a few younger boys a run out, and they've got a decent squad at Hibs, and they'll rest the guys like Nisbet and Murphy. I think they'll get a night off and the weekend off, so it'll be interesting to see some of the younger boys get an opportunity and see how they go, because Brora Rangers, I think, have have done really well up in the Highland League. I don't think they'll be mugs. I think they'll come down and give Hibs a game. So still expect Hibs to win the game, but we'll see how strong Hibs go tonight.
Yeah, when they do go strong, when everybody gets back from international duty to play in the games, Tam, I noticed that Jack Ross says that he believes Kyle McGuinness will bring them a better balance to the midfield. Now, when a manager says that, that means McGuinness is coming in. Who's going out in your mind?
Oh, difficult one. McGuinness might get a run out tonight, actually. Hopefully he gets some sort of minutes. Like a lot of Hibs supporters, I'm interested to see how good a player he is and what type of player he is. I've not seen a lot of him, to be honest. I know he played central midfield for St Mirren, and he gets up and down. But you've got Gogic and Newell in there who've been great. I think Gogic is a regular starter. So I think if you're looking in terms of who I think will drop out, then possibly Newell, I think, would be the one to be vulnerable for McGuinness to come in, because Jack Ross loves him. Gave him his debut at St Mirren. He's gave him a 4-year deal. He's been desperate to get him in, so he's going to play when he's fit, I think. So I think Joe Newell will be possibly the one that will drop out, but Joe's been playing well for Hibs.
Well, I was just about to say to you.
Sorry, it's a huge commitment from Hibs, isn't it? 5-year contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't say that. Andy's just coming back from a
4-year deal. Yep.
Andy, you're right, Charlie. He's come back from an injury.
It's what... Listen, Jack obviously has put a bit of faith in them, and they think the potential they've got, and if they've got these lads on 4 and 5 year deals, you're talking, over £1.5 million, £2 million, maybe probably a little bit higher if they do well. So it gives them security, the lads, but also gives the club a security that if whoever wants them, they all firm or what, they have to pay a good whack for them, which is great, especially in this pandemic.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, Roughie, I like Newell. I agree with Tam. He's got a sweet left foot on him.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him as well. He's got a wee trick or two as well. I was going to say to Tam, would there be an option? I haven't seen Hibs at all, but an option to go 3 at the back with 5 in midfield and the 2 up front. Certainly they've got the defenders back there that could play a 3, and certainly added another player of quality in midfield would give them a bit of strength in there.
Yeah. No, they've played a 3 at the back a couple of times, Roughie. So there's definitely scope to play 3 and then play Newell, Gogic and McGuinness in the middle of the park. You could play Paul McGinn right wing back and Stevenson left wing back. So no, they've got plenty of options. They're building a decent squad. You can see that the players have lost. I think they lost 11 and they've brought in 7. But the players they've brought in are far better than the ones they've let go. So they've really strengthened the squad in terms of quality, maybe not in terms of numbers.
Yeah. Tam, you're not going to like this next bit. We'll have a look at the results from last night. Here's how it all panned out. There was a couple of games that obviously they were awarded a 3-0 victory, Dundee being one of them against Forfar. But of the results there, one that was screaming out at me, Tam, was Hearts' defeat of Inverness Calais Thistle. The Jambos getting the 1-0 win, albeit I think a lot of people not happy with the manner in which they got the win. But I have to say to you, Roughie, I don't know if you've seen some of the highlights, but boy, Craig Gordon pulled off an absolute peach of a save for Hearts at one point in the game. I mean, I think he's going to be magnificent for them this season.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to happen. We all think it's going to be Hearts right until the end. And when you're a team like that who are going to be attacking in most games, you need a goalkeeper at the back that can pull that save out when needed. And he's done that with Celtic, and I'm sure he'll do it with Hearts. And believe it or not, the stats last night was seemingly Hearts had something like 25 shots at goal. I don't know how many were on targets, but they were seemingly well on top in that game.
Yeah. Anyway, that's last night's results. Here's tonight's fixtures. One that we mentioned that Tam would be involved in with Hibs against Brora Rangers. It's the big one. Brecon City against Dundee United. Kelty Hearts against St Johnstone. I wonder who manages Kelty Hearts. Montrose against Ross County. St Mirren Partick Thistle. And Airdrieonians against Alloa Athletic. St Mirren against Partick Thistle. Roughie, last year you were going there with your director's suit on, hobnobbing it, starter, main course and suite. I presume you're nowhere near it tonight.
No, there's no food available, but the game will be available. Or drink. No drink either. which is a bummer as well. But certainly the game should be exciting. As I said to you before the show, we had a bit of a blow with Declan Glass getting a bad injury. Felt sorry for the boy. He looked really, really good in the games he played. So he's went back to Dundee United, and we'll just have to go on with it. Tam seems to have very good influential news that hadn't been released, so he's well ahead of the game here.
Roughie, are you looking forward to seeing Partick Thistle playing another team with Clarke for Hearts tonight?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to say this, but obviously the Thistle strip is yellow and red, but our away strip this year is maroon, believe it or not.
No, is it?
No.
No, I wouldn't put it past you. Honestly, we don't know where your head starts and their butt begins. It's unbelievable, you two together. Just before we go, go on then, Charlie.
Is this a game you would look to win? Because St Mirren are obviously not started well, and a little bit nervous at the moment, losing a few goals. Do you expect them to win tonight or have a good chance?
Well, I hope that is the case. I have to say, I don't want to go back to Hearts again. We played Hearts on Friday and they were very impressive. I think we lost the game, but we should have taken something out of that game. So I think they're quite confident. Obviously, the boy Declan Glass, as I say, was a big player, but we have in the process of bringing somebody else in. Tam seems to be ahead of the shout and who it is. The forums aren't signed yet, so I'm not going to commit that it is a done deal, but he's on the right trail.
Which one, Tom? Are you able to say?
Blair Spittle,
Tom can say it if he likes.
Oh, it's Blair Spittle. The deal's done, Roughie. The deal's done.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's done.
Well, if you think the deal's done, that's good enough for you.
No, I'm telling you the deal's done because okay. He's there till the end of the season. I'm led to believe. So.
Well, you're led to believe. I'll take your word for that then.
Yeah, it's either that or they're going to have to take it off social media as well and get the comments.
Remember, Roughie's not on social media and he's still got a Nokia, so it's maybe not come through yet.
Ian McCall's already commented
all I know is before I came on here, there were a few things to be ironed out.
Okay, they've ironed them out. Listen, Hibs, Brora, Airdrie, Alloa, Kelty, Hearts, St Johnstone, Brecon, Dundee United, St Mirren, Thistle, Montrose, Ross County. Where's the shock coming, Charlie?
I can actually think that Partick Thistle could be the one. I just fear for St Mirren at the moment. I think Roughie's Thistle can do something tonight. I think the shock will come there. Okay,
Tam, do you agree with him?
Yeah, possibly. I think that's the game that you would look at. I think St Mirren have been struggling to score goals, and we could add to what about Hamonakis last night with their full team out? That's a shocker, getting beat off Annan. I don't think it was as big a shock as that, to be honest. That was a dreadful result.
Yeah, it was a dreadful result. Chipper's under a wee bit of pressure at the moment, but Hamilton thankfully have a board that stick by their managers for as long as is humanly possible before they eventually think, look, we're going down a road where we can't get back from. So I think Chipper will be fine though. He'll get a bit of time, especially in the Premier League, to try and get things right, because they're certainly not at this moment everybody's cannon fodder and selection for relegation yet. There are too many other clubs in the mix at the moment that are catching people's attention. I'm just going to read this out, which was a little line that came from, I can't remember who it was, but just said, it's his birthday on the 17th of October. You should be wearing Pelly's top on that day, Peter. I've got Pelly's top on the now, and I'm just going to finish with this. One of our journalists who works for us here at PLZ Soccer, Charlie, said, I mean, honestly, I was talking about who's in the greatest ever Rangers team, the greatest ever Celtic team, and he goes, but I mean, would these players even be able to survive in the modern day game? He said, Pelly wouldn't be a great in the modern day game because the players are technically better now and fitter as well. And I nearly fell off the chair, Charlie. And I thought to myself, wow, I'm a baby boomer and he's a snowflake. And I thought, the generations clearly don't agree.
No, I couldn't agree with that. I think Pele and your great players could easily play in this generation, and they can adapt, no problem. But it would have been great to see these type of players live. You know, I've never ever seen them. Roughie, you obviously played against or seen them live. It's phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? But they can definitely play in this.
Yeah, but
this
the
era.
thing about it, the thing about it as well, Peter, is if Pele was playing in this day and age, he would have everything that the players have got just now. He would all have the facilities that they get. You know,
Can you imagine
the
Maradona?
eating and the,
Oh, it'd be unbelievable. Yeah. It'd be unbelievable. But you know, the argument I was making was because Craig's a great lad, and he's one of our valued. There, he's just texting you saying you know where to stick Pele. But the one thing I would say, I mean, Craig's a great lad. He's a big Rangers fan. I said to him, you know, your greatest ever Rangers team, Roughie. Right now, we are looking at Scotland and wonder where we're going to pick everybody. If Derek Johnson was playing in today's football, he would be in the team immediately. And you'd think to yourself, well, you could play him at centre-half, you could play Big Derek at centre midfield, or you could play him up front. That's how technically good the big man was.
yeah, up front, I would have him up front all day. You know, and if you get balls into the box, quality balls into the box, as Davy Cooper used to do on numerous occasions, big man would score goals quite easily. There's no questioning that.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, on that note, just for the benefit of everybody who gets a chance later on at night to listen to the podcast, big thanks to Tam McManus for rubbing his microphone all the way through the podcast.
Was that the Roughie rustling his pockets?
No, I'm really going to have to send you. I'm going to have to send you a mic stand. You're doing my head in.
Any chance of me getting a mic?
Charlie, you are definitely going to get a mic. I'm going to deliver one to you with a stand, obviously, and we'll check out some of the countries behind you that Roughie hasn't been in, playing for Scotland, and of course at the Miss Universe and Miss World contest, we'll analyse the world map as well. Charlie, it's as simple as that. Really looking forward to the game. Fingers crossed. Build up tomorrow. Tam Cowan, Steven Naismith will be with us on the programme. Roughie and me will be here. We'll give you our predictions for it. But before we go, Tam McManus, give me your prediction. What's going to happen? Scotland-Israel.
Scotland 2, Israel 1, and we will march on to the next round. I think it'll be a double for Dykes.
Charlie Adam.
I'll go 1-0 Scotland. McBurney.
Brilliant. I would love that to happen. So would Roughie. I'd listen, any McBurney, but hopefully Ollie McBurney putting the ball in the back of the net. To all the Tartan Army, wish we were at the game, but it's just not going to happen. We're going to have to watch it on our chair, jumping up and down, getting a little bit nervy as well. Fingers crossed we can do the business. Good luck to Steve Clarke and the boys. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Like, share and follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. From all the team, Tam, Charlie and Roughie and myself, thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclarke.com.